Oh, hello, and welcome to Adente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. Tonight we have another story in the Wicker Saga, The Lonely Stars. So, yeah, this is another one of those connected standalones, or like standalone stories that are in the Wicker Saga that like it's in the same universe, according to the author.
Mm.
The Lonely Stars is by Shadow Swimmer 77, as are all the Wicker Saga stories. So you can check it out at creepypasta.wiki. There is an author's note to the story. This story was originally in response to Natalo's request for a story that ended with the line, "In that moment, everything became clear. I knew I could never go back." However, after the contest concluded, Shadow Swimmer 77 decided they liked the ending better without those two lines. But without further ado, I suppose we should do the initial recommendations for the story. I am going to recommend this one.
I am also going to recommend this one.
Okay.
I am not going to recommend this one.
Interesting. Okay. Then, well, let's find out why and see where it goes.
See if I can be swayed one way or the other. And perhaps I missed something that's very clear, very obvious.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, let's find out. Starting with the rundown, featuring The Rock, because
In
we
space.
yeah, because we don't have a narrator name, and I'm gonna bring this bit back for this one. So The Rock, because we don't get a narrator's name, is an astronaut up on Space Station Libra, which is the replacement for the ISS, the International Space Station. 3 weeks ago, he was supposed to be back on Earth alongside his colleagues, and more importantly, with his wife and daughter. But due to rescheduling of the launch for the replacement astronauts and a strange anomaly, The Rock has been sitting in the emergency module with the red emergency lights his only illumination, radio silence from Houston, and trying to figure out how to get the main power back on. This module of the station has had no viewports like all the other ones to see outside and, more importantly, see the Earth and such. So it's been getting a bit claustrophobic for The Rock. Fortunately, the main power does come back on, and The Rock tries to radio Houston yet again, thinking the issue was on his end. Unfortunately, when he still hears nothing back, he heads out of the emergency module to at least see the Earth from one of the viewports from the rest of the station, only to find it missing. When the station's computer finally triangulates and calculates star positions around the station, The Rock learns it has somehow been 15,000 years, with the Earth missing, perhaps simply far away as a result of the station teleporting forward in time, but not space, and the universe expanding. The Rock is left alone on this lonely station amidst the lonely stars. Finn. So, that is the rundown for this story, and I suppose we'll move on to everyone tolerates the Grandma Inquisitions at this point. Mikey, do you have anything?
Yes. Although
Yes.
So the first bit is actually dialogue.
Yeah.
So it technically gets a pass, but I won't let it have a pass, so that's why it's here.
Yeah, I mean, you are The E does stand for evil.
All right, so this is Houston talking to the Rock. Don't know if it's solar flares, some kind of field left behind by a passing comet, or something else. We'll be moving into the area within the hour. What?
What do you mean? What?
So, like, why is Houston moving into the area within the hour?
It's
Shouldn't it be that, like, this entity will be moving into
no,
the
okay,
No,
area?
they mean like they should have a shuttle showing up there within the hour to
no,
help.
that's not it either.
Okay.
It's so the Earth and like planets and the Earth and stuff like that are always moving. So like we're going. It was what I got from that was that the Earth and the station are going to be passing through this anomaly within the hour. That's what Houston was getting at.
But it's moving towards the Earth.
Yeah, because that's how space works. Things are always in motion in space, and things are passing. Earth passes, like our solar system and the Earth pass through all kinds of weird shit. We're currently in a space cloud right now, according to astrologers. Like we're currently in a nebula, or like in like in a large like expanse of space that's just like a debris cloud. So like we're constantly passing through like weird like things and stuff like that.
All right. Yeah. Well, I felt like they register it and they were like, it basically it will be upon them
Yeah, fair.
in an hour. That's the wording would have been a bit better than it was like it's going, like we're going to hit it, or it's gonna take effect or something, like just not we'll be moving into the area within the hour. Because I mean the space station itself is moving around the Earth.
Yeah, which
So
it must be that big. But okay, yeah, fair.
I gotta say this.
Mhm.
Out of the three of us, we all three of us had a different view of what that meant. So there probably needs to be some wording changed one way or another.
Maybe.
A little bit of clarification.
Yeah.
Okay. And and then my next note here is just a generalized everybody loves italicized dialogue flashback text, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Is that why you didn't like it, like gamer?
Yeah, maybe subconsciously.
Like it's funny too because like all of the, but not all, but a lot of the past dialogue is also in italics, like, but they have quotes. But then for some reason, like the dialogue, like the dialogue, for example, from like his shipmates, like leaving him and like him waiting for the Ruskies and stuff like that. That's all that dialogue is in italics, but all the dialogue that is like in the present, like when he's like trying to get a hold of Houston stuff, that's not in italics. But then we have
Yeah,
like,
I have a note on that.
yeah, okay.
Well, it's
And then,
technically grammar, but yeah.
yeah, and then but then yeah, you get down to like the memories of his like his daughter and his mom or and his wife talking to him and stuff. That's just in italics and not quotations. I thought it was weird, but I was gonna let it pass. It's like, oh well, it's like I was able to visualize that as like a memory. It's fine, but apparently not.
The problem is, it's all a memory. It's all in the past. Even when he's talking about Houston, it's in the past. He's
Not all of them.
remembering what they said.
Yeah.
Because at the point when Houston is saying words, he doesn't have contact with them. So all of it is a memory. So either all of it should be italics or all of it should be quotes.
That's well, no,
That's my point.
Yeah, you're right. You're like, but no, like the first thing he says, like Houston, come in. This UN station, space station Libra, come in, Houston. Like the very first thing we read in the story, that is actually in the now. And then yes, you're right. But yeah, you're right. At the very
Everything else though.
Yeah, everything else though, like that is should be a memory, should be both italics and quotations because yes, it is dialogue.
Yeah, I guess if it's a memory, then I guess it'd be both. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
All right. Then I have a conjunction junction.
Ooh.
And next stop, Conjunction Junction. Doot, doot.
It was photos of this breathtaking panorama that had first driven me into the NASA program almost 20 years ago. So, what better way to spend a week than by gazing at the world in all its glory? It was good advice. But I'm blind and deaf in here. But now, but I know you will anyway. And I won't stop you. It takes the station's computer 2 hours to identify our position. Finn.
It sounded as like he was like being a little silly and cartoonish. It was like the panorama view is like what got me to like propelled me to NASA. Yeah, just like it just folded up and just like slapped him into NASA's program.
Yeah,
Like,
very literally.
It's like, all right, you're going up to space. Too bad I'm deaf and blind. Like true isolation in space.
But yeah, for those unaware, Mikey does these strings of sentences to highlight all the sentences in a story that start with words that they probably shouldn't, like its, ends, or buts, because there's always better words to use.
And I will say that the but I know you will anyways one would have gotten a pass perhaps if it had had quotations because it's dialogue technically, but
That's like the cheat for anything. If it's technically dialogue.
yeah,
Yeah.
well it works because that's how human language how human speech works.
But it's not.
It is though. We are always
not
using short forms.
Do you not see the joke I just did? I just started a sentence with but.
Oh, I'm so dumb.
That's where you're supposed to call me out and be like, see?
But see,
Oh, you're right.
Jesus. But yeah. Gamer, do you have anything for the grammar and yell?
Yeah, I think I got a little bit left. Let's see. So yeah, early on, Nair like describes the situation, and then says that his replacement should have been here by now. And then it cuts to a few lines of dialogue saying, like, "Are you sure you'll be all right up there by yourself, mate? And sure, somebody's got to keep the lights on. Blah 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 blah."
Yeah.
And then it cuts out of it. Problem being, there's no context to that dialogue. And I kind of feel like it should say something like, "When I last contacted the ground, they said bleh."
No,
It just kind of cuts to it out of nowhere.
I kind of understood what I kind of got through the context from earlier because, like he said, like 3 weeks ago, like I was supposed to be out of here 3 weeks ago with the British and Chinese astronauts who came up with me. Like that's in like the second to last sentence of the last paragraph, and then it cuts to this. And honestly, the "you sure you'll be all right up here by yourself, mate?" is I insinuate as like, okay, it's the British astronaut talking to The Rock in the past.
Oh, it's them. So it's the British and the Chinese ones went back down.
Yes.
Yep.
And one person had to stay up because like to keep an eye out, like keep maintenance and stuff on the station while the replacements before the for the replacements to show up. Like they couldn't leave some nobody on the station while like they couldn't leave the station unattended, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I get it now, but again, it wasn't clear reading it the first time. I thought like that was last transmission with Houston, but no, it's
okay, yeah, no, it's
it's the other two people that were up there with him. They went back, and he stayed up there by himself.
You know, I wonder if maybe if this story had like horizontal lines to break up these bits
It
of like
wouldn't do
past
anything.
dialogue.
Yeah.
Putting a line in there doesn't.
That's the
explain
thing, though,
anything.
like the story. Yeah, okay.
You know what it is? It needs to be Australian instead of British, because then Gamer probably would have picked up on the mate.
But
You
mate
want
is
mate?
I really would have.
Yeah. See, the thing is, like, the story is trying to be like kind of like is kind of trying to incorporate like past and like past memories with like present day situation.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
even a single line of being like, I hated that I had to stay up here while they left, or something like. There's the context of it technically is in the dialogue itself. There's no setup to the dialogue to tell you where this dialogue's coming from.
Yeah, the dialogue is, or the context is in like the previous paragraph, but it's like you had to read between the lines.
But only if you get it, because I missed that as well.
Yeah.
This is not going well for me.
No, I'm sorry, man. Like, like
for two right now.
I also don't know like how to like really like how to make it more clear without like kind of cheapening the memory stuff.
It basically just needs something in there to say that I'm cutting to a flashback of when the other two people left and I had to stay.
But it does do that in the story with the italics. But the italics unfortunately are also not great because like we've brought up on the show time and time again, they're hard to notice sometimes.
Oh, because is this quote and italics?
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't change anything.
So like what if it was in like I don't know, like I don't know how to fix this for you.
Basically, the last line of the previous paragraph should be the part where it says, I was supposed to be out of here 3 weeks ago with the British and Chinese astronauts who came up with me, but unfortunately, I had to stay behind. And then it cuts to the dialogue.
I guess.
Because it cuts to other stuff before the dialogue, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
so it kind of pulls me out of the moment of that moment and brings up another moment, and then it switches to this moment, which is technically the previous moment, but I thought it was a third moment. My brain was all over the place.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you could like maybe retool like the previous paragraph so that like the subject of like the flashback is going to be in the next thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be at the end, like so like the context will be at the end of that paragraph before you dive into this like flashback. So yeah.
Just so it's not coming out of Left Town, basically.
Yeah.
And we talked about quotes and such. And then, actually at the end, the quote is, it takes the station's computer 2 hours to identify our position. Finally, it finds enough stars to triangulate where we are. Exactly where we should be, 2 weeks after the last measurements were taken.
Yeah.
So, why is it R? And why is it we? He's up there by himself.
Well, because he's become friends with the onboard computer.
Honestly, I just kind of that like he's including himself and the space station, but like not in like not in a way that like, oh, like I'm space station is now my friend. Like it's just like the space station and him are now exactly where we're supposed to be.
If you were out driving by yourself and you were lost, would you say, I don't know where we are? Or would you think that, like, I don't know where we are? Or you'd be like, I don't know where I am. Where the fuck am I?
Okay.
But
you have to think in nautical terms. Because in space, you're on the open seas of space. So a captain would name his ship and treat the ship as its own being. So because he's up there on the space station and he's the only one there, it's his ship.
Yeah, that's kind of like you wouldn't say that for a car, like if you're in like,
no.
like lost in a car, but like with the space station and like with a ship or anything like that, it's sort of different than a car because it is sort of a named thing and like it has a character. It's like a weird, like it doesn't have a character, but it has a character kind of connotation to it. That when it comes to like nautical stuff and like space stuff, so.
Or there's also the other option that he's going crazy because of isolation.
And that's what I wanted to have happen in this story, and it didn't happen.
I think I kind of like that it didn't happen because like that happens too often in these kind of stories, and like the fact that like
we'll
the
get
character
into
is
it
like
in notes.
okay, yeah.
Regardless, I think
Yeah.
it should just be singular because he's up there by himself. That's the whole point of the whole story. He's by himself, and then all of a sudden there's plurals at the end for no
Okay.
reason.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the end of my grammar.
All right. Then I suppose we'll move on to actual thoughts. I'm going to start with this thing here. Libra was designed as a successor to the International Space Station. Did you guys know that NASA does plan on retiring the International Space Station and like
Yes.
having it fall out of orbit into a section of the Pacific Ocean that is like completely isolated called Point Nemo, and it's scheduled to be dropped in 2031?
They're just gonna drop it in the ocean?
Yeah, that's what they Point Nemo is like this like really isolated like far point in like barren isolated part in the Pacific Ocean that's also dubbed the space space station graveyard.
Okay.
That's where
Well-
they plan to just drop it or have it like basically like push it out of orbit, like push it out of like an orbit so that it starts dropping down in that area on a trajectory course.
Yeah. Well, it's because it's old technology. Like
Yeah.
you gotta
Like they are planning on
rebuild
replacing.
and
Yeah.
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 So it's one of those things where it's great for what it is doing right now, but you can only retrofit it so much before the systems can't handle anything new, and then you've got to send a new one up.
Yeah.
So
And that's
I
what they're
get that.
planning.
It's just kind of weird that they're wanting to crash land it into the planet. Like, what if something goes wrong with that plane?
That's yeah, but
and
like
then it lands
Well-
on the land or in
well,
a city.
it's NASA. They've figured it out.
let's just hope
Like
that
the-
let's just hope we're not reading a creepypasta in like 2035 about like or like we're not living a
the news.
I was gonna say we're not living we're not living a true sci-fi creepypasta like in 2031.
Yeah.
We're like, and in other news, the International Space Station landed in Madrid,
Mhm.
killing thousands. It's like, oh god,
Bad time.
yeah,
yeah, due to an unexpected hurricane that threw it off course.
oh god. But yeah, so this also kind of like gave me a timeline roughly of like when this story was taking place because it's like somewhere after like the 2030s, basically, like sometime like
Mhm.
roughly after the 2030s,
Mhm.
like at least late enough that like there is a space station Libra up there, but like early enough that like he's referencing in his notes or in the dialogue or in the narrative that it was the replacement for the previous station and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I thought that was it kind of gave me at least a rough timeline of when this was taking place and such. But yeah, I'll move on to the next thing I have here. I unseal the airlock and move to the next module. I chuckle to myself. Maybe I'll be able to see my replacement's shuttle. I peer through the viewport. Then frantically, I move from module to module, looking through each porthole in turn, the pit growing deeper with each passing moment. She doesn't want you to go. She's a kid. Of course she doesn't want me to go. I don't want you to go either. I know, but I know you will go. But I know you will anyway, and I won't stop you. I love you, babe. I love you too, always. And then it kind of goes on and like revealing that the Earth isn't there. Yeah. When it said the emergency module didn't have viewports earlier in the story, when I was like reading the story, I kind of had a feeling that he was going to get out of that emergency module when the dust had settled, and he was going to see like a decimated Earth or like no Earth at all and such. And obviously we got the no Earth at all scenario. As far as space horror goes, I can only imagine this is like a common nightmare for astronauts to have on the ISS right now. Like waking up and the Earth is just gone. Like that is like a nightmare. So, like that is 100% like that is definitely got to be a fear, like an irrational fear, but a fear nonetheless that some astronauts have while they're on the International Space Station. Just waking up.
It's that irrational because like shit can go like
well, like
sour,
yeah,
you know?
like well, irrational in that like the Earth. I mean, it's just inconceivable. Like it could technically. It's like that. It's like that like 0.99999 chance of it happening, of like the Earth just completely vanishing. But like yeah, like waking up and like
I meant
seeing the
more
Earth.
along the lines of him drifting somewhere else in space and not knowing where he is.
Yeah, no, that also would be a thing. Yeah, or
That's
like yeah,
where quote unquote Earth disappeared. It's basically he moved.
Yeah, but I mean, like it's just such like it is a possibility, but it's like it's a slim chance, even like. But like to have that happen, like that is literally like the worst case scenario.
Yes, but you always have to plan for the worst case scenario.
Yeah. Also, I'm guessing that as a result of the emergency situation, he wasn't able to leave the emergency module since it had like the only stable life support or the doors were sealed until like main power came back on. It doesn't really say specifically like why he didn't leave the emergency module to see what happened to the Earth earlier, like in those 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, it said that like it's supposed to boot itself back up and then open the door and let him out once it's
okay.
clear.
Did it actually say? I know that it said like it was supposed to boot itself up. I don't think I read that it was supposed that the doors were going to open up. Did that actually say that?
That's what I assumed. Like the emergency lights would go off and then the door would open and be like, okay, it's safe to come out now. But he was waiting too long and it's like, I want to get the hell out of here. I'm going to punch this wall. Oh, that worked.
And again, I do want to actually preface this. It didn't actually bug me that it didn't bring up like specifically that the door like were locked or anything like that for him. It's just I just noted while I was reading. It's like I don't think it actually said that. Like so, like why didn't he? I guess in my head I kind of just like used what material I had in the story and just like assumed that like the doors wouldn't open unless the main power was back on. So, but I don't know. It was like I like it's like. I guess there could have been a line or like something in here to say that like he was locked in that emergency thing while the power was off or while the emergency power was on.
The main system is powered by exterior solar panels.
Yeah.
The system had been tested and retested to automatically restart in the event of a catastrophic failure.
Mm-hmm.
So I took that as like when shit's going, when you're in emergency mode, it'll reset itself.
Yeah, but I'm just like I'm playing devil's advocate here. It's just like it could have also added like, and the doors would be locked for the emergency module until then, kind of thing.
One can assume it was locked, otherwise he would just open the door anyways. Like, it doesn't matter if the lights are on or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm again. This is like I'm proposing this, even though like I don't like I was fine with the story as it was, but like I'm just proposing it because it was like I did take note of it when I read it, but then I like passed it by. So.
It would make it better for sure.
And then my last thing here, or my last quote. The rest of the universe, though, is a little off, ahead of itself by about 1,500 years. In my gut, I'd already known that, though. I'd known when I looked through the viewport and didn't see the big, beautiful Earth shining below me, just the dark, empty blackness of space, filled by only a few lonely stars. Appropriately credits. Yeah, damn. I thought the anomaly would have like pulled him away from the Earth spatially. Like that's what I was kind of assuming, because like hence like how else does the Earth go away unless it's like something catastrophic, and I'm pretty sure you'd feel that on the space station in orbit. But like I wasn't expecting it to be temporally like pulled away, like similarly to what I said earlier, like that would be a pretty gut-wrenching feeling of just like the sort of like realizing you're out of like, not only are you like far away from Earth, but apparently you've slipped through time 1,500 years, and like the universe has expanded enough that like you weren't and you were not like locked to anything, so you're exactly where you were, but the Earth has moved 1,500 years away from you. it's sort of that situation. It's sort of like the same kind of like vibe I got from, or you kind of get from the original Planet of the Apes movie. Spoilers, I guess. Where,
Okay.
spoilers for like a movie from like the 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
Planet of the Apes. They thought they'd gone to like a new planet, but it turned out they went through a time portal or like a wormhole that sent them forward in time, and it was just they went back to Earth in the future, where like the Planet of the Apes was. So, Planet of the Apes was Earth all along, guys. But
I mean, wasn't that in the advertising? Because it has like the
Nope.
or am I thinking of something? I might be thinking of The Day After Tomorrow.
It's the big
something like that.
It's the big reveal at the end of Planet of the Apes, like when he's like walking or riding across the beach, and he sees the Statue of Liberty like half buried in the sand,
Yeah.
and it's like, you maniacs, you blew it up, and that's when you realize it's not a distant planet. He's been on Earth this whole time, because they passed through a wormhole at the very beginning of the movie. But also, isn't that kind of isn't that the start of Phantom Dust, Gamer? They go through a portal and end up like as astronauts and come back to Earth like in the future or something.
Yeah, it is actually.
Like it just like clued is like, wait, did Phantom Dust just take that from Planet of the Apes?
Yeah, he was an astronaut. Shit happened in space, and then I don't know if it's Earth in the future. It might have been some other planet, but basically he's the only one there, and he gets weird superpowers. And spoilers to Phantom Dust. He creates basically an entire world of people just through his imagination, but he's not aware of it.
Right. Because he's an Esper now.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, back to my notes and stuff.
Yes.
Also, I was curious about this with the computer triangulating and calculating like the star positions and stuff like that. I had heard about that, but like it was mostly in like sci-fi movies and shows and stuff like Star Trek. But I actually like quickly I checked it, like I Googled it after reading the story, and it is actually possible to calculate stellar drift, which is because the stars are always moving. Like everything in space is always moving because it's always expanding. Technically, our solar system and our planet are a spaceship for us. We are constantly traveling through space right now.
Yeah.
Like we're not stationary in space. We are constantly moving. So like that's what stellar drift is, and it can be calculated to figure out like how long it's been since since a star was in one position to another. So
yeah, that's one question I was having is like, how does he know the timeline?
He was able to calculate it.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. That's
Well,
what I'm saying. Like, yeah.
No, the problem is how is the computer calculating the timeline, because there are stars that come and go and disappear and whatnot. Like the base explanation is like a few hundred years ago, somebody did a painting with stars in it, and it's missing a couple stars because they weren't in the night sky when it was painted.
Yeah. Well, he did have a jumping off point for his computer to calculate, because he did have the recordings he did two weeks before, like right before the anomaly hit. He did have like
That's true.
those star charts. Like it does say that, like
Yeah, but that far in the future, like how it'd be so different that I feel like you wouldn't really be able to calculate how different it is.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what I said. Like he was like the computer, after the computer was able to like triangulate some of the stars, like he was able to get a proper do some proper calculations.
But
and it is kind of like
calculations is my problem.
But yeah, it is also a couple of decades in the future, like the computer. So like maybe it's smarter than even our computers nowadays.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's definitely like not in like, it's not science fantasy in this case for me. It was definitely like, this is feasible, or this is definitely plausible.
Basically, I was treating it like realistic modern day stuff, but I don't know. It almost seems like it's like Mass Effect or Star Trek.
No, it's not. It's actually like it is actually possible to do it. And it's more like hard science fiction than I'd say than like straight up science fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's within the realm of possibilities. That's what I was kind of getting at. It's like, yeah. But that is my actual thoughts for this story because yeah, that whole like stellar drift thing, like him like just suddenly the anomaly apparently like temporally putting the space station like 1500 years in the future in the same spot, but not the same spot where the Earth is. Like that is both really cool and horrifying as a situation. It's like it's cool on a scientific level, horrifying on the personal level. So, but yeah, Mikey, these stands for evil.
Okay. So let's see here. The first actual thought I have was a question that I pondered, which is his surviving for a couple of weeks on the International Space Station believable? And to which my response is yes, because there was a group of 3 astronauts that were stuck on the International Space Station for an extra 191 days past their mission end.
Jesus. Okay, yeah, this is
So
real. This actually happens.
yeah. So that's that actually happened. So it's gives you a bit of a thought process of, well, okay. But then the other thing is the main power is solar power, or explained as solar power in the story.
Yeah.
So, and I did a quick search, and if the space station didn't have power, how long would it last? And the answer is not long. Like if they lost power and couldn't bring it back on, they would lose the ability to scrub the air.
Mm.
So,
You mean
but
like
then,
if the solar panels broke,
well, if
or if
main,
the sun went out?
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, the sun went out.
Um,
There's a whole lot of more problems.
Yeah, but if
Yeah.
the solar panels just broke, like the wiring broke, and they weren't able to fix it,
Yeah.
yeah,
My one little kind of like counter to that argument of like, oh, they wouldn't have that much power. That was the ISS. This
Yeah.
is the upgraded the upgraded
Yeah.
space station. So yeah.
yeah, and the story does say emergency power.
Yeah.
So with that, I'll give it a pass because NASA is known to build in redundancies.
Yeah.
So could it last 2 weeks? It's debatable, but we don't know what the emergency power would be on a space station that doesn't exist.
yeah, and we don't even really have a time frame for this, do we?
We know that it's after 2031.
Yeah, that
Or
doesn't help.
probably actually, honestly, it's probably after the 2030s entirely because it doesn't like they're not gonna build a they're not just gonna like poof a space station's in orbit. It takes about it probably takes about a decade to build a space station in orbit.
When was the story written?
This story was written. This story,
Yeah.
I think it was written pretty recently.
Okay, I'm just basically, was this written theoretically with knowledge of a rough timeline when the next one's going up? AKA how you're connecting it to 2030, because there's no time frame in here regardless.
I'm giving it 2030 because that's when the International Space Station's being retired.
That's what I'm saying.
And then it takes about a decade or so to like. So it gave me a rough timeline of when this was probably taking place.
Yes, but the story itself does not.
Yeah.
So this could be the replacement to the replacement for all we know.
No, it says it replaced the ISS, which is the International Space Station.
Never mind. I forgot about that part.
Yeah. Also, this story was written in March of 2015, but
damn, okay.
That's still like, I mean, that was they've had that. We've known that like they were going to be retiring the ISS for a while. So.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. So my next actual thought here is when he looked out the window at the end.
Yeah.
I was expecting either a planet that wasn't Earth or Dogscape.
God damn it! This is the canonical I mean, I can't remember in Dogscape. Did we not? We didn't get like anything like from ISS, right? Or like anything from like the space station, like looking at the Earth, seeing like or I thought it was like aliens or something. Anyways, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the other thought was have a disk, because
God damn it.
the explanation is that there's solar flares or some kind of field left by a passing comet.
Mhm.
So if it passed through the Earth with the space station, then there'd literally be a disk ripped out of the Earth and brought with him.
What?
Oh, well,
It'd be
think a wave, okay, going
Yeah.
through space,
Yeah.
and it cuts the Earth in half.
That's not how that's not how our Earth's ionosphere works.
Well, but we don't know what this thing is
True. Yeah, it could.
that
It could've
affected
been,
the space station.
Yeah, it could have been like some kind of
So,
weird gravitonic wave that just like split the Earth in half.
yeah. And you know how weird that would be to look out the window and you literally see this weird disc.
Actually, honestly, like if you've seen them, if you played the video game Guardians of the Galaxy by I think it's Crystal Dynamics, like that kind of like new like squad based Guardians of the Galaxy game. It actually has a planet that's just sliced, like literally sliced into like into into discs. So I can imagine that. It looks really
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. And that would also be cool.
I mean, it would also be really horrifying because it's like, oh yeah, no, everyone's dead on that planet because like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And the other thought is that this sort of reminded me of Farscape, because Farscape goes through a wormhole and ends
Yep.
up on the other side of the galaxy.
Yep. Yeah, his yeah, the main character is doing like has a prototype starship or like a prototype ship that can like leave atmosphere and go into space and then come back down,
Mm-hmm.
and then just happens to oops into a wormhole.
Yep.
One does.
Yeah. That's such a good show.
And
sorry. Now I'm just getting memories of Farscape.
and then my last actual thought here is that I like that he removed those two lines from the end,
Yeah.
because they really don't add anything.
Yeah, I like how it ends as it is now. Like,
I'm glad the context
Yeah.
is still there, though, so we know how he got to this position in the first place.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And that's the end of my actual thoughts.
Okay. Gamer.
Let's see. So, in regards to him not being able to contact Houston,
Mhm.
I kind of may have talked about this a little bit, but it's possible that his comm system is just dead, and that's why he can't get through, basically. Like,
Yeah.
And if some random damage happened to the space station that he wasn't aware of, with enough damage done, it's possible that like they don't have the location of the station either. Like they being Houston, so they can't just send someone directly up to get them because they don't know where the station is anymore. You know?
Yeah.
Because it could have drifted off orbit or something.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think it says. Like for him, and on his end, like he had been keeping the voices at bay and like not panicking because he figured the problem was because of the emergency power. He didn't have a strong enough like signal, or if like something wasn't working on his end for the comms in the emergency module.
Mm.
And then when the power came back on and he still wasn't getting any word, that's when he started to panic a little bit.
Yeah. And then honestly, my only other note. Actually, no, there's two more notes. My next note in regards to the ending, honestly, we kind of talked about. We're just like, I didn't understand how he could possibly know that it's been 1,500 years specifically.
But
it seems like a stretch, but we kind of talked about that.
Yeah.
But the other way I saw it is like he looks out the window. There's no Earth there anymore. Where the fuck am I? It's entirely possible that, like I said before, if the space station took some damage, it just kind of rotated. So like the window that he's looking at where there was the
He's
space,
freaking out.
yeah, he's still just outside, still orbiting Earth, but he's just facing the wrong way. So it's like Earth's not there anymore. Oh my god! Meanwhile, it's like in the window behind him.
or like it's on the it's on the side where like where there's just panels. There's no like windows, so he can't.
Yeah.
He physically cannot see. He'd have to do a
Yeah.
spacewalk to make
Mhm.
sure. I think that would have also been like even more horrifying. Is him like I eventually like risked taking a doing a spacewalk just to see if maybe I could see anything, but then I realized I couldn't. It's like,
Yeah.
if you like get like full 360-degree confirmation that you're fucked.
Yeah. At that point, just cut the line and just float out into space and be done with it.
Yeah. But no, that's definitely like, oh god, it's like being at the bottom of the ocean. It's like just that kind of that kind of like isolation fear. It's just like, oh.
But that kind of goes into my next note here, where there really isn't too much in here for like isolation-based horror or insanity-based horror with the voices in his head. Like it's set up that it doesn't follow up on. Like nothing really
I think
happens.
I think it's because the story wasn't focusing on like the person like going slowly mad. It was all kind of for a build up for that last realization is like the Earth is gone. He's left alone in the dark in the dark void of space alone. Like that's the whole point of the story is just leading up to that moment at the end of the story when the character realizes how fucked he is.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't really an isolation. It wasn't like it wasn't like trying to build an isolated like an isolation like thing where he's spiraling into madness because of his isolation. It was trying to do something different with that kind of theme.
But it's also not, at least to me, it's not exactly creepy. Like that's been like in action movies and stuff before, like sending the bad guy to a different dimension. He's gone now. Okay, that's fine. Like same sort of thing. Like it's not scary per se. Like sure, it's scary for him, but like there's a lot of things that are personally scary for someone, but it's not necessarily horror, you know. And I don't really view this as horror.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. And it is sort of a subjective thing too. Like, but I don't know. Like, I have to disagree with you, honestly. Like, this to me is terrifying.
Okay.
By the end, like at least like the connotation at the end is just terrifying. Like just realizing that he's like just how fucked he is, and the fact that it ends off with no chance of no hope of rescue or anything like that. Just like no, he's just in the empty blackness of space, filled by only a few lonely stars. It's like fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair. Okay.
But yeah, that's the end of my notes.
All right. I suppose we'll move on to final thoughts then. I mean, I'm still going to recommend it. I thought it was a succinct, short sci-fi horror story. So, yeah. Kudos. Mikey, these stands for you.
I still like it. It sort of was wondering where it was going, although I sort of knew. Well, unfortunately, the author's note at the beginning does sort of ruin the ending because you sort of have an
You can't know
idea
where
of
it's
like,
going.
well, you have an idea of where it's going because the supposed last two lines of what this would be, but then you decide to remove them. But having those two lines in your head, you go, okay, well, something's going to move, or because he can never go back, right?
Yeah.
It could also mean like he ends up killing a guy at the end. It's like, okay, I can never go back to like a normal life anymore. Like I'm
Yeah.
going to be on the run forever. That kind of view.
That's
yes.
true, but then we get space.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it doesn't turn into Murder on the Space Station Libra. It turns into like just the lonely stars.
now, if he went crazy and then killed his shipmate that wasn't actually there,
Yeah, that could have
That
been
would
interesting.
that could have been interesting, yeah. But yeah, overall, it doesn't overstay its welcome, and I would have liked there to be something more in the emptiness of space. Like I said, like a disc of the Earth, like
Just a
uh,
piece of. Oh, okay. Here's something actually that might have been cool. What if like he looked down and he did see the Russian space station, the Russian space shuttle, like sheared in half from the anomaly as well, and just like drifting bodies.
So both of them got pushed through.
Yeah, like basically, like as the Russians were coming up, the anomaly went through, but only took half of the shuttle with
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
yeah, that'd be pretty interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, like just the emptiness of space is like looking into the emptiness of being underwater.
yeah.
Like,
Which some people are terrified of that, myself included. I
but
definitely have some thalassophobia.
I'm sorry.
yeah,
That's actually it's the fear of the of like the deep basically.
Weren't you
Of
playing
like
Subnautica
yeah.
recently?
yes, I love it, and
What's wrong with you?
I'm a sadist. Is a masochist or a sadist?
I don't know.
Masochist.
Masochist? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a masochist.
Okay, fair.
I love it when the Reaper Leviathan comes out of nowhere and fucking destroys my shuttle and kills me.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm filled with anxiety and dread as I'm swimming through the darkness, but I still love it.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, as is, the vastness of space is terrifying. So it's still, in my opinion, a good ending. The 1500 years, um, I feel would have been potentially better if he stated a distance. So, like, uh, I did a quick calculation based on how far the Earth moves in a year and times 1500, and you get roughly 876 billion miles.
Damn, what's that in light years?
It's not even 1 light year. It's
Oh
like
god. Yeah, okay, that
5 trillion away from a light year.
yeah, fair. Okay. Yeah.
Light years are big.
Yeah, light years are big.
So, but I feel like that distance would have potentially been a better way to end it. Like to
True.
say, I'm really far away from Earth.
And
So
there's no
many
chance I'm getting
billion
back.
miles. As opposed to 1500 years. It's like,
Yeah, that,
but
Yeah, that's
like,
what really bugged me. Like, again, we talked about it before. I don't need to
I
really
think
bring
it's
it up again. But
yeah.
the time thing bugged me.
I think it's also just because I think it's just because like that's also like sometimes how astronaut or how like astrologers and scientists and NASA measure the distance of space is also with time as well. Yeah, because the whole like
Mhm.
relativity thing.
Mhm.
Because like time is local, so like traveling to like one part of the solar system, even or like beyond the solar system, it's like going to take thousands of years or hundreds of years.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
So, where am I going with this? Yeah. So I still recommend this.
Okay. And gamer.
Yeah, for me, I missed a couple of things that weren't very clearly stated, and there's a handful of things in the story that bothered me to the point that like I didn't enjoy the read. Like as a space-based like as a space story of an astronaut being lost in space and him not being able to get home, it's written well for that. But if you're trying to creep me out, it's not really doing it. That's the way I was seeing it, because there's so many ways that it could have gotten creepy and weird, especially because it's set up that he needs to keep the voices at bay. But like and you could have done a lot with all the voices in his head, but it doesn't show up because he's doing such a good job with that. Like, good on him. But I'm not necessarily reading creepypastas to have the protagonist do a good job and not encounter anything bad. You know,
I mean,
it's like if you watch a movie, like, and the main character like always avoids the creature. Never, like, the car starts every single time. They never check out the basement. Like, it's
and then the world ends because like that I think that's the thing you're kind of missing here is like, yeah, he did a good job at keeping the voices at bay, so he's not having any like existential horror through his journey up to the ending. And then when he finally like gets out of the emergency module because the powers come back on, and then it just all hits him like a fucking sack of bricks because the Earth is gone and he's lost in space.
or
And there's no way.
the station is just rotated and he can't tell
Sure.
because there's no proof.
Well, I would assume that the computer trying to triangulate stars and like and doing the calculations would tell him that, oh no, the Earth's just on the other side. But
if the computer is functioning 100% like properly,
fair.
Like if he actually went through some weird portal, do you think the GPS on the fucking like computer would work 100% after that? Like, it's entirely possible that electronics kind of got buggered a little bit. And it's not doing readings correctly. So it's like, I don't know where the fuck you are. Meanwhile, it's just like over there.
Yeah. Well, and if the story had kept going, it's like, oh, and then he got rescued, like there, then he like, this isn't a horror story, it's a sci-fi story. But the fact that it just ends there, that's what turns it into a horror story. Cause like, we don't get to find out if he's okay or not. We're just, we fade to black as his story ends in space. Like, yeah. But yeah, fair. If you were expecting more or expecting something different, then
yeah, basically for everything that happened, I saw the mundane explanation for it, and I couldn't get my brain away from that. So the whole thing was just a mundane thing that happened to him.
Okay.
So it kind of left me disappointed by the end, especially because it didn't do any psychological or isolation or claustrophobic horror. Like, it very briefly touched on the claustrophobia, but it didn't really go hard on it. And I wish it went hard on something. It was just soft on everything.
Until the very, I'll stop trying to like badger on that ending part. So
I know. But yeah, for me, as a story to potentially creep me out, it didn't really do it for me. As a sci-fi story, it's written well enough. It's just there's not enough creep in it, in my opinion. Gotcha. So for that reason, I can't recommend this one.
Okay. Also, I just realized none of us touched on the image.
They're stars.
It's just
one critique I will give of the star map that is given us to as an image. Could have used a few less stars.
Why?
To be a little bit more like black and dark and just like a more of a void than.
Why? It's not like this is creepy.
I fucking hate you.
See, it's so bright and colorful with all the stars because it's not a horror story.
So that has been this week's episode. Two recommendations.
This is my wrong opinion, of course.
Well, no, you again, fear is subjective. Like what I find scary, you may not find scary, and often do not find scary, or even creepy. So it's that's just the way story, like the way horror works is like sometimes you like some people find like zombies incredibly terrifying. I find them cheesy and fun to watch die. But yeah, so yeah, at the end of the day,
all different people.
Yeah, all different people. I guess with that, we're giving the story 2 recommendations, 1 non-recommendation. Use this as you will, like if you, depending on who you kind of vibe with more, to going into the story. That has been this week's episode. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted. We're all on Twitter. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without the W, because his name is very long.
Yeah.
And now I'm at Review Cultist. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah! And if you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon. Look up the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tiers with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you immensely, because you're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely, because without your listenership, it'd be like screaming into the void of space with all those lonely stars. And if you didn't write these stories and post them online for people to read and share and like or dislike and what have you, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd have nothing to talk about. So thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, D stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigamortis. Sleep well in space!